This is a series about the biggest events in our lives. Everywhere on Earth, human societies have found ways to mark the rites of passage almost all of us go through.
You're so beautiful.
Thank you.
So I'm going to travel to some extraordinary places around the world to see how they celebrate the landmarks of life: birth, coming of age, marriage, and death.
Ritual has shaped our culture. It has come out of our natural bodily instincts, the way we behave, the way we move, the way we feel.
I'm Grayson Perry. I'm an artist. And in my work, I've always tried to cast an anthropological eye on the world I live in.
That spirit has just come all over my shirt.
And it seems to me that here in fast-changing, increasingly secular Britain, we're in danger of forgetting what a rite of passage can do for us.
I've been at funerals where the priest forgot the name of the deceased and their partner.
So I'm hoping the ceremonies I experience will have something important to teach us.
Look, what a privilege!
When I get back, I'll meet people in the UK who are going through the same events and who want to mark them in ways that feel true to their lives.
I'm really interested to talk to you about how we can help you have a really good death.
Together, we'll devise our own ceremonies, rites of passage for how we live now.
All rituals were invented by somebody. They didn't just come out of the ether from God.
In this programme, I travelled to the Indonesian island of Sulawesi to visit a people whose ideas about death could hardly be more different from our own. Living high up in the remote and rainy mountains that run down the spine of the island, the Toraja have held on to many of their traditional beliefs, where most of Indonesia converted to Islam, Hinduism or Christianity. I've been invited to the funeral of Mr. Alu, and on the first day of what will be a 5-day-long ceremony, I met his 86-year-old widow.
How long were you married to your husband?
Sudah lama, waktu Belanda.
70.
Dari sana dari
Oh
tu
my
baik-baik.
goodness.
Tidak lain nak dekat maling pu. Oh, yang ku rasakan tu sebab sebelah syamuk eh.
When did he die?
Bulan Sapu lah. Belum kasih kah? Tak bisa situ lalu pas karena kita sudah tua.
It'd be hard to be late for a Toraja funeral. Mr. Alu has been dead for over a year.
This is so alien to our own British concept of death and funerals. I mean, here's Mr. Alu. He's been lying here in state, really, in this traditional house, and his widow's been sleeping in the next room.
A Toraja funeral only happens once the family feel they're ready for it, and they typically wait for a year or more. For the Alus, that moment has finally come. The buffalo are funeral gifts from local families and communities, and they'd all be slaughtered before the ceremony was over. The more buffalo die, the more people respected you. It's satisfyingly tangible. Mr. Alu, a distinguished village elder and coffee grower, got 24.
Different from a funeral in Britain. I mean, a lot of this is about status in your society. It's also quite a good sport and quite gruesome. I mean, this isn't a for someone who's just died. This is not grief in the raw, in a way. This is a funeral for a person who died a year ago.
Whilst the slaughter and spectacle of Mr. Alu's ceremony continued, I wanted to understand what this separation between a death and a funeral does for the Taja emotionally. So I travelled to the next village to meet the Joshuas. The family matriarch, Mrs. Joshua, had died. But I arrived at a fraught moment. One of Mrs. Joshua's daughters had come from another island to visit her.
How long has your sister been here in this room, dead?
Sa atong mamati na, tanggal 15.
How do you feel, or your family, having her here in the house?
Na rata mortorato kidi ko rintang na vela na di pakampam pati men kana sampuna sehingga erobanwa di nanna di badoba babanwa na ta na vela male di tampe mintu ki sirampuna sa keluarga jagai.
And do you give her food and drink and talk to her?
Ya, memang dipakaria. Sedangkan maliki mapasa na dipadolo dikutane kumala maliki mapasa ate indo kiparolo komi dolana ni tebati imi ya tulana lina ya tujong na tangana lami bungka nasang mi dolana ni anna karangi dari situru lalam pak purian buang la abi kita tortolino.
And does having the body here in the house help with grieving and coming to terms with the death?
Ya. Tantong kinakamas itu mintu keluarga.
Kopi liberke. Sama.
The first question that's on your lips, I know it, is does it smell? But every village or family will know someone who has been handed down the knowledge on how to embalm the body, and they will use maybe palm wine and local flowers and roots, and this works because I can tell you there is no smell. And also you'd think it's something horrific or scary because in our tradition the body is something we are scared of. Here it is completely okay. It's very domestic, it's very sweet, it's a member of the family, it's ordinary.
Ako pa, sa daan na pinit juga ya.
Ada tinggal atas sana no. Why does she pinch my nose like that?
She likes the long nose.
Oh, I see.
That's because uncommon to see for local people. So therefore, she taught it, for the next grandchildren. Hopefully, the grandchildren has a long nose also and handsome like you, according to her.
Looking at this funeral, it's really made me thought, when do we really die? We in the West, we're so bound to rationalism and science, we think it's the moment our hearts stop beating, or brain death. But maybe we die when we're forgotten, or when we're not loved anymore. And maybe that says something about our attitude to feelings. You know, here, they take them very seriously because they give it plenty of time and ceremony and space for those feelings to take on reality and to have their due importance, whereas in the West we think, oh, dead, on, go, stop the smell, let's get rid of it. And I think there's something very powerful about this.
Death is the most important and inevitable rite of passage of all. And yet the Taja people had shown up for me how in Britain we shroud it in silence. For my first British ceremony, I travelled from Sulawesi to Hounslow. Proud trade unionist, local government worker and father of two, Roke was diagnosed with motor neurone disease and given 18 months to live. 8 years later, he's still going strong.
So, Roke, you've been staring down the barrel of death now for quite a few years. What's your relationship with it now?
It's difficult because there's very few people in the same situation as me. Very few people that can understand exactly what's happening with me. And there's not a huge amount of people that want to talk about it. They probably think that I'd be better off not talking about it. And sometimes I feel what they're actually doing is they're not comfortable with it themselves. And we also have this notion about once death arrives, the person is transformed. I don't think there's ever been a pain in the arse that's died. But there's been plenty of pain in the arse living. I understand now that if I stop using the ventilator, it would take about 7 to 10 days. The idea of death used to frighten me. But sometimes, these days, I just want to get it over with.
Roke's clear-eyed view of death is bracing, but it can't always be easy for his wife Deirdre to hear.
It's funny, for me, it's like, 'cause my dad died suddenly. That was it. 1 minute he was mowing the grass, and then he came inside and collapsed. That was the end of him. And so this, being able to really treasure the time you have left, knowing that it's limited, but in a way it's, it's a kind of a blessing to know that. I remember a friend of mine saying, when I told her that, Roke had motor neurone disease, he's terminally ill, and she said, you're going to have to be so nice to him now. You're never going to be able to have an argument. You won't be able to shout at him anymore. That's going to be so hard, she said. But I think he'll tell you that that's not the way it went. And you still do, you have your relationship. You have arguments. But that's part of life, and it's part of living with it,
I think there's a lot of ways that we've lost touch with how we formalise the really big events. I never even went to my mother's funeral last year because of family relations not being existent, really. But my brother went to it and my sister went to it. And my sister's word she used, she said, was, it was the most inappropriate occasion she'd ever been to. And that wasn't necessarily, what that was, she was casting a judgment on it, I think, was that the whole ritual in its perfunctoriness, it did not reflect the tone, the feelings, the history of the people in the room or the person in the coffin. And I'm really interested to talk to you about how we can help you and your family and your friends have a really good death. I think what we could understand from the Taja people is that the rituals and the traditions that they've developed, they're telling us something about what it is to be human. I don't think we're any different from them. I think that, we have the same needs, we have the same existential, philosophical, difficult, intangible things to think about, but they've ritualized them and they've put them in their lives and they've got these nice definite things. Number a buffalo, check. Neighbors turn up, check. Do this, sing this, check. We live in a very secular society. And I'm looking to see how we can reframe these big moments in our lives, re-energize them. I want us to feel more alive in that moment of death.
Roke, Deirdre and I are going to devise a rite of passage for Roke that feels right for their situation, a ceremony to which I will contribute some art. For my second ceremony, I travelled to the Netherfields estate on the outskirts of Middlesbrough to meet Alison and Kevin. 6 months earlier, their 17-year-old son Jordan had been knocked off his bike and killed by a drink driver.
Some of the photos are from when he was a child, grown up to 17. And the top one there was on my 40th birthday in December. It's really hard for me to accept he's gone before me. I should have gone before him.
Does all this help?
How can I put it? It's helped me in a way that is there when I want to go and see him. I've also done his bedroom in the red and blue, and it's a place where I go to speak to him. He would have been 3, 4-year-old. We did have a wedding DVD, and very first dance where Jordan's dancing with me, it won't play from there on. It just cuts out completely. So it's hard to describe because I'm not religious. It's as though he's telling me, let me go. But I don't want to let go. Just have one more cuddle of him, one more kiss. I know it might sound funny to yourself, but many days when it's been cloudy, I've seen his face in the clouds.
Are you religious, Kevin?
Not really, no. I go to bed every night and have a conversation with him. And I say good night to him. And I wake up every morning and say good morning to him. It's just always still here for him.
I'm sort of interested, I'm an artist, so I'm interested in making things. What was the start of the wall? And
I was sat one day and just sort of looked at the wall and went, that can be a Jordan's wall, but it needs to be red and blue. every bit of clothes he had on was either a red hoodie, red t-shirt. His tracky bottoms was always blue. And often or not, we'll just sit the way we are, like talk and me and Kevin.
Turn and tell you, we look at Jordan's walk because that is Jordan's walk.
I feel like I'm at the beginning of a religion. I feel like I'm witnessing the birth of a major belief system. It's sort of like I can understand how world cultures were born from strong feeling, the basic sort of philosophical and moments of life, that we have to make sense of them, because they feel so senseless and irrational, and our brain is crying out for order and meaning. And how are we going to do that? And the way that material culture and ritualistic behaviour almost is drawn to that strong feeling like a magnet, clang, 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 it attaches. I must do this thing, I must paint this thing, I must face this thing, I must walk this thing. It is a very basic human instinct to organise around our strongest feelings. And what could be stronger than mourning the death of a child?
A month had passed, and I'd come back to the West London suburbs, trying to figure out how a ritual might help Roke and his family and friends. I'd seen how the Taja hold their funerals, not when medical science says you're dead, but when it feels right emotionally, for the living. Roke took me to the football. As a fan of Brentford FC, he was well aware of the power of ritual to help us face the inevitability of tragedy and defeat.
Strong atmosphere of football match on a Saturday afternoon. There's something incredibly comforting about it in a way. It's this sort of institution. It keeps death away for another week. That regularity is a sort of delusion of immortality, that we're always going to be another football match. There's always going to be another goal. It'll come, and we don't have to worry about the inevitable. But yeah, I'm seeing everything now as through the filter of imminent extinction.
You tell that joke because you actually tell it much better, please. The one about the cross-eyed George.
Western medicine is keeping Roke alive and has given him the power to choose when he dies. But for all the post-match bants, I sense that Western emotions have some catching up to do. And maybe that's what Roke's rite of passage could accomplish. Roke has decided he wants a ceremony he can be present at. If the Taja can separate a death from a funeral, why can't we?
This gathering of people, all the different people that your life has touched and whose lives have touched yours, a really quite extraordinary opportunity for them to acknowledge how you've touched their lives, and as you're saying, vice versa, and there's something really rather lovely about that.
It's lovely for you to hear it, but it's also, are you going to be saying something?
I hope so, yes, I will. I'm planning to. It's a bit odd that I'm worried about what I'm going to say, but I've had 9 years to think about it.
Yeah, if you can't say...
If you can't say it now...
you're really thinking.
This is your last chance, mate.
Yeah, no, I think, Christ, if we could all live... I mean, that's one of those cliches that they embroider on cushions, isn't it? Like, live every day like it's your last, but you're doing it. I mean, I think now is the time to have the conversation that I've been thinking about, You've said you want to have this ceremony now, because you feel that the end is coming.
Yes.
And what are your plans for your death. It's a big, distant elephant, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It's like having an elephant in every corner of the room.
It never seems very real to me, because we have this conversation and it's not that I think he won't do it, but I'm like, okay, we're having this conversation now, but he hasn't chosen a date, he hasn't reached that stage yet, so we're still living this life. But when he says, I've decided a day to plan towards, I think that will be quite different.
I've thought a long time about three things. We'll recognise that moment, number one. We'll have the courage to acknowledge that it's time. And thirdly, we'll have the courage to go ahead with it. The planning, a year in advance is easy, but then when a year becomes 6 months, 3 months, a month, 2 weeks, it's not so easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a nice thought, because then I think it's hard for me to imagine life without him.
Do you think you'll communicate any of this to the people there?
That's a tough one, that's really hard.
The ceremony we're devising for Roke would celebrate a full life, well lived. The one we're devising for Jordan would be about a life cut brutally short.
When I went into Kevin and Alison's front room and saw their shrine, I thought, wow, this is something very raw, very real, very archetypal. So I thought I would make an icon of Jordan. I love the idea that worshippers in sort of Orthodox Christianity, they kind of kiss the icon. The physical object is very much acknowledged. It's not a picture of something else by a skilled artist. It is the deity. That's a potent thought. And it goes back to the sort of dawn of religion and idols, the earliest art of mankind.
I went back to Middlesbrough on what would have been Jordan's 18th birthday. Kevin and Alison wanted to mark Jordan's life and the senseless way he, and so many others, are killed on Britain's roads. So we decided to walk a pilgrimage around the streets of the Netherfields estate.
We're going to walk round the kind of stations of the cross of Jordan's short life to sort of follow the geography of his 17 years on Earth.
Well, Jordan, we've brought you back to school, son.
Did he like it at this school?
He loved school, never one day off. He could be full of flu and he'd still go to school.
He loved this place.
Jordan, you're at your favourite swing?
Just the playground?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where you used to come.
That's the way we'll always see it out. We're coming. It's Jordan's place.
He'd be here every day, especially on the rope swing.
Yeah.
Away, Ali, you get on it and we'll push you high. Yeah. I did get stuck one day because they wouldn't stop pushing me.
So how close everything is, if this was Jordan's life, you know?
Yeah.
We were never apart. He wasn't so much a son, he was my best friend as well, wasn't he? He was my best friend.
Is this the exact spot?
Yeah.
I love you. I wish I could take it away. I would do anything to throw a place away.
Even though we're on a very ordinary estate in a very ordinary town in Britain, this is still incredibly numinous. And we need reminding of that.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Jordan. Doing this pilgrimage today, it really brings home to me the ritualistic desire we have. It's kind of innate in us somehow. You know, the way that we try to sort of fumble our way in a very intuitive fashion into making meaning. That's what we're doing. And it seems to come out of the ether, but it doesn't. It comes from us as human animals. And the patterns and rhythms of being alive. It's here in Middlesbrough, it's in Sulawesi, it's in every society. It's a way of framing the big moments, the tough feelings, the joyful feelings, marking them so we have memories, so we know who we are, where we are, why we are. You may be wondering what I'm going to do with this. And there is a place I'd like to see it. And it's here.
Thank you.
That's a picture where you really see him as a man. It's hard to see beyond a breathing tube sometimes when you meet him now.
4 months had passed since I first met Roke and Deirdre, and Roke's motor neuron disease had advanced significantly in that time. They've set a date for his farewell ceremony and asked me to MC the event.
More than any of us, he's had this sort of forced contemplation of mortality, and to a certain extent, death has lost its sting. So I'm making him a kind of living funeral urn, really. I've sort of based it on a sort of classic urn shape. And it also is reminiscent of those sort of canoptic pots that you find in kind of Egyptian burials, where they would mummify the individual organs and things within the pot. So there's something kind of resonant about that, because what I I'm hoping at the ceremony is that Roke's friends and family will all have something to bring, you know, a kind of physical memory, really, which they could put in the vase, something small and significant about their relationship with Roke or his life. You know, so this is a kind of keepsake for him.
I don't think anybody here would have been to a living funeral before. So it has all the potential to be a memorable occasion, which is, you know, in the end is what we're doing. We're laying down, you know, memories which are made of feeling. Memories of Roke.
Well, welcome everyone to a celebration of the life and times of Roke Ma. This is a formal time to witness and celebrate the good relationships that have bound you to Roke. It may be your last chance. So to kick things off, Roke's wife, Deirdre.
Thank you, Grayson. And it's absolutely lovely to see each and every one of you here today. So I have a couple of things I'd like to contribute to Grayson's amazing memory jar. And the first thing, I'll be a little bit disappointed if he doesn't remember this, but it's an item that holds some very special memories for me. It is my something blue, and I wore it on our wedding day. So it is the bridal garter. That will go into the memory jar. But something we have always had in common is a love of literature. So I'd like to crave your indulgence now. I'm going to read a short poem that I wrote for Roke. And it's called Last Times. Remember when you held me in your arms and how I thrilled to be in your embrace? The way we walked together through the rain? Your movements filled with such a restless grace. I would have braved a greater deluge then, had I but known you'd never walk again. Remember how you raised a glass to us and lifted up our babies to be kissed? The way you drove with pride and confidence, that final swim together with the kids. I would have lingered in the water then, if I had known you'd never swim again. We never know when each last time is come, until strength fails and one more power is gone. Then I lament its loss and carry on, in wonder at the person you've become. If I had known what lay before us then, I'd still go back and be with you again.
I'd now like to invite you all to come and bring your things for the memory jar.
This is Roke's, and I'm quoting, babe magnet, chick puller, and sexy vest. Yes, Roke, hope springs eternal. It's been much worn, and each time apparently with utter conviction of its powers.
I really enjoy it when he's out in the garden having his cigar and I can smell it in our side of the house. And they've been fantastic neighbours.
We've spent the last 12 years or more maybe going to see Brentford. This is my first season ticket with Roke.
This picture, I think, sums us up perfectly. Me and you in a pub with a bunch of troublemakers, smoking cigars, sticking two fingers up against the world. And that is us.
Roke, this isn't going to sound right, but I was always delighted that when you came into the hospice, I was always looking forward to meeting you and spending time with you. And I learned a lot from you, mostly I have to say about alcohol. And so I thought what I put in the jar was some beer. Then I thought perhaps they won't go into the jar. So last night I drank them, and I brought the bottle top, so I'll put the bottle top.
She's been phenomenal with my brother, and she's just done so much. It can't be put in the jar, but it should be in the jar, because she's been such a super person, super mother, super wife. I just cannot put into words how much we appreciate and love her for all she's done for Roke. I think that should be in the jar, and I just can't.
Wow. It's kind of fitting that the jar is really full. And that reflects Roke and his heart and his life, I think. And when I made it, I thought, have I put too much emphasis on football or beer? And I'm thinking now it kind of works. Here I'd like to welcome the main man himself. Ladies and gentlemen, Roke Ma.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming here. I'm pleased that I can share this day with Deirdre, Kate and Tom. I'm lucky that I've got to know before I died how much people care for me. Death is a tough subject to speak about. However, I've been facing it for 9 years. It's a credit to all those here that no one ever told me to change the subject when I went on about it, which I did a bit. Sorry about that. But today, I feel I've come to terms with the fact that my life has reached its closing stages. Death is close. The first step to acknowledge is that the time has come. Then comes the time that family and friends must be told. Fundamental to this process is the fact that it must be made clear that the decision is mine alone. I'm here today to say that this time is close. I wish to say goodbye. I need you to know I'm at ease with this decision. Michel Montaigne said 450 years ago, that if one knows how to live, one knows how to die. All here have helped me to live, everyone. Consequently, I think I now know how to die. I've had a wonderful life, and I'm ready, I think. Thank you.
This is a series about the biggest events in our lives. Everywhere on Earth, human societies have found ways to mark the rites of passage almost all of us go through.
You're so beautiful.
Thank you. So I'm going to travel to some extraordinary places around the world to see how they celebrate the landmarks of life: birth, coming of age, marriage, and death.
Ritual has shaped our culture. It has come out of our natural bodily instincts, the way we behave, the way we move, the way we feel.
I'm Grayson Perry. I'm an artist. And in my work, I've always tried to cast an anthropological eye on the world I live in.
That spirit has just come all over my shirt.
And it seems to me that here in fast-changing, increasingly secular Britain, we're in danger of forgetting what a rite of passage can do for us.
I've been at funerals where the priest forgot the name of the deceased and their partner.
So I'm hoping the ceremonies I experience will have something important to teach us.
Look, what a privilege!
When I get back, I'll meet people in the UK who are going through the same events and who want to mark them in ways that feel true to their lives.
I'm really interested to talk to you about how we can help you have a really good death.
Together, we'll devise our own ceremonies, rites of passage for how we live now.
All rituals were invented by somebody. They didn't just come out of the ether from God. I'm in Japan, a modern, high-tech, industrial society. And yet, they have a great love, a deep love, of tradition here. Here, they choose the fact that they're going to celebrate a point in their lives in a very set, traditional, controlled way. They love detail. They love the aesthetic. They have a great instinct for what is beautiful.
I'm near Nagoya in central Japan, and I'm here to witness an elaborate ritual belonging to the country's official religion, a Shinto wedding. Today, I'm meeting the bride-to-be, 30-year-old office administrator Aya, on the day she's having her wedding kimono fitted, and seeing it for the first time.
Why are you crying?
これを着てあさってお家をお世話になったお母さんとお父さんにお礼を言ってお家を出ていくんだなと思うといろんな思い出がちょっと蘇ってきちゃって。
On Saturday, when you wear this beautiful kimono, what will your feelings be?
できてないです。まだ全然わからないです。当日どんな気持ちになるのかもわからないし。
Why did you want the traditional wedding?
に強い信仰心のあるものはないです。やはり日本人が昔からしてきた伝統的な花嫁の嫁ぎ方で行きたいなという憧れはありました。
Aya and her husband-to-be, company director Shu San, are a modern, non-religious couple living in a high-tech city. I'm curious to know why they would invest so much in their country's ritual traditions. So I asked the priest performing their wedding about the place ritual holds in Japanese life.
In general, why do Japanese people care so much about ritual?
日常の生活の中でただ毎日毎日に心を込めていろいろと勤しみ励むんですけれども、やはりメリハリというか、やっぱりその区切りというものを、大事にすることだと思います。明治になって一般庶民が神様の前で神社で行うようになったのは明治になってからだと思います。
So this ritual is really not very old.
神社で結婚式を行うというようになったのは明治になってからだと聞いております。
So the marriage I'm about to witness is a recently invented tradition. Yet it's being treated by everyone with utter solemnity. And it would turn out to be one of the most exquisitely beautiful things I'd ever seen.
So it's 6:30 in the morning. We're at the bride's parents' house. All is a bustle. Photographers, stylists, wedding planners, the dog. Everyone is bustling about, preparing for the big day. And everything has a kind of time and a place. It's almost to the minute planned what's going to happen today.
It takes 3 hours to prepare Aya in traditional Shinto dress. Every detail executed with incredible delicacy. Before finally she's ready to be revealed to her family and friends.
Ancient tradition and a dog selfie. I love it. This is what it's all about.
Now, at the temple, the ceremony begins as Aya is joined by Shu San.
蔵打ち家、長坂家、五稜家親善結婚の儀、祭典も滞りなく成功いたしました。おめでとうございました。
The thing that strikes me about this Shinto wedding is just the pure precision and delicacy and the pace of it. Everything is symbolic. The sake is sort of like their first communal meal in a way. They go through this literal gateway, which is so loaded with symbolism and honor and history and communal goodwill. This gives us a lesson in how we might form rituals to mark things that need marking in our lives, to make us remember and feel and celebrate and emote.
I've returned from Japan to suburban England. And for my first ceremony, I'm going to work with a couple who have very different backgrounds. They're having not one, but 2 weddings. And I'm meeting them at their first wedding venue. Housed in a mock Tudor mansion in Watford is Britain's biggest Hare Krishna temple.
I'm curious to have a look inside because, you know, the exterior is not screaming Hare Krishna at me. So I'm sort of interested. I'm interested in its kind of covert nature, you know. But yeah, it was George Harrison's mansion, I believe, that was given to the Hare Krishnas. Great.
Ben, the groom-to-be, isn't religious. But Sarika is Hare Krishna, an offshoot of Hinduism that I'm about to discover is as rich in tradition as anything I saw in Japan.
So that's Lord Krishna. He's the naughty one.
Right.
So he's the one that steals all the butter, the milk, all the sweet stuff.
Right.
And then gives it to all his friends.
I like the different styles.
Yeah.
You know, some are quite kitschy, some are a bit more folky.
I want to find out what happens at the Hare Krishna ceremony. So I'm joining Ben and Sarika at their pre-wedding meeting with the priest.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to Bhaktivedanta Manor. So I'll be the priest performing the wedding. Yay, maybe not. So congratulations for your kind of big day. And I'm here to make sure everything does go smoothly and iron out any bumps.
I just wanted to know the main bits that Ben and Ben's mum will be doing.
Yeah. So in our tradition, when the groom comes, he comes in the form of Vishnu. Vishnu is God, and then that's why he's given all kind of worship. The bride's family, they wash your feet. It's only going to happen once, so you better enjoy it, you know.
Is this Ben's chance to actually be a god for a day?
Yeah. So once that's done, then the magic moment comes when the bride arrives. Now the tradition dictates that when the bride comes in, believe it or not, the groom has not seen the bride before. So then there's a curtain that goes in between, and then as the bride walks in, the curtains will go down, and you will look at each other, and hopefully it'll be the right kind of, you know, couple, you know.
Right person.
Don't be disappointed.
I leave the temple with the feeling that the Hare Krishna part of this wedding is sorted. In Newbury, where Ben and Sarika live, I want to find out what ideas they have for their secular ceremony the following day.
The peacocks, they're a symbol of love.
Wow.
So these are going on the table. So they will go at the table stand, and there'll be 3 empty bottles of alcohol with peacock feathers in them as well. And one's an empty bottle which is shaped as a Buddha.
Well, hang on. Let me get my head round this. There's an empty bottle of alcohol that's shaped like a Buddha.
Yeah, it's a beer. It's an actual beer. It's a beer bottle, but it's the shape of a Buddha.
Yeah.
I didn't drink them all myself, I promise.
What if it was a Krishna-shaped beer bottle? Would that be bad?
God, that'd be really bad, yeah.
In terms of your second wedding ceremony, what are you imagining is the ceremony will comprise in terms of its traditions?
So the Sunday is civil service, It won't be like hymns and vows. You know, it's not going to be a traditional sort of church wedding. That, you know, it will be a very simple service. But we've not really discussed like the Sunday in terms of, oh, we have to do this or we have to do that as part of the ceremony.
What I find interesting is that as a British person, we have lost a lot of our traditions, you know, because I'm sort of thinking, what is your equivalent to all of the sort of complexity and tradition of the Hare Krishna wedding?
Yeah.
How do you sort of ramp it up? Because all ritual does not, you know, it's come, somebody at some point has said, oh, that works. You know, isn't it good if that happens? And then somebody said, yeah, I was really touched by that bit when that happened like that. Because what I'm finding very often is that rituals that we think of as ancient aren't that old. It's sort of thinking about what electrifies the emotion in the air, in the way, in what do you do in that moment.
Ben and Sarika, like many of us in modern Britain, seem to be struggling with how to make their secular ceremony as meaningful as a traditional religious one. And maybe that's where I can help them.
What are our traditions we believe in? What are the kind of markers of Britishness, Englishness? And, you know, we can often trot out cliches about the flag and the Queen and the last night of the proms. I'm never quite sure if that's true. But is there something more day to day? I'm sort of trying to see Ben. I'm trying to exoticize him, really, in my own eyes. He seems, you know, a regular guy. What would strike me about him if I was an alien?
But there's another dimension of marriage for which we have no rituals at all. Over 4 in 10 marriages in Britain end in divorce. And so, for my second ritual, in leafy Surrey, I'm going to devise a divorce ceremony. Dilly and Mark were married for 25 years. They have 2 daughters, Ruby and Rosie, who are 14 and 17. But 4 years ago, Mark decided to end the relationship.
You're signing the ones in yellow, and I'm
Do
signing
we-
where there's blue.
Okay.
I meet them on the day they're signing their divorce papers.
Wow, there you go. How's that feel?
You know what? I felt like there wasn't any music.
The last time you signed a document like that, there was music playing.
Yeah.
The day we got married, it was such a beautiful day, and I remember the intimacy of holding Mark's hand. To have that within such a crowded room, it just felt lovely. Yeah. I felt like Mark and I were always a real team. I just remember sitting on the top of the stairs and just thinking, I am so happy. I felt really happy in our marriage, blessed to have the girls, and I just remember that moment, and I think that's really important, to take stock of what you have and really appreciate it, because things can change, obviously.
Did you do that?
I don't remember having that, but that's not to say that I wasn't happy. You know, having the girls and being reaching that sort of position did, you know, it was good.
So there was a moment when you must have said, right, that's it, I'm abandoning hope of it continuing how it was.
I said that I didn't think that I could continue like this and that I was going to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what prompted your decision?
Well, I don't know if there was a specific event. That was, you know, there was a long process of, for me, I suppose, undermining the relationship, I guess, really. Like going out after work more and, you know, drinking with colleagues and not sort of coming back and being in the home and just sort of separating myself.
And I felt, in the way that Mark just said, he
he distanced himself, and yet we had the family together. That was so precious. And I thought, why aren't you fighting for this? That's what I did. I fought and fought for us. But ultimately, if he didn't want to be here, he didn't want to be here. And that's what I kind of had to come to terms with.
How have the kids been around it, really?
I've tried to be as honest with them as possible. I think it's important to, keep things as calm and positive as possible.
I feel positive about this conversation. I think it might be because I have a big personal investment in it. I'm a child of divorce. My parents got divorced when I was 5. And it's still, the repercussions of it was very bitter, very divisive. And so I am motivated to sort of do something about it.
I want to work out how a divorce ceremony might help Dilly and Mark. Since they separated, Mark tells me he's been living in rented accommodation just across the park from Dilly and their daughters.
How many people in this house?
There's 3 down here, and then there's 1, 2, 3 upstairs. So the landlord lives upstairs, and then 2 as a couple, and then 3 guys down here.
All right. So how do you get on with the other people in the house?
Well, we rub along together.
It must be odd going back to kind of shared accommodation.
Oh, yeah. Going back to living effectively like a student was a challenge, I suppose, or still is, Cause...
Yeah. So what are the upsides of living like this, though?
Well, I come and go without really any sort of limitations.
Because I always think, when people talk about freedom, like, oh, yeah, I'll be free. And I always think, it's a double-edged sword, freedom, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The flip side of that, potentially, is the fact that you're alone. But then, I think reflecting back to living within a marriage where you feel lonely, that's the same thing almost.
Yeah. No, I got you. Yeah, if you're feeling kind of not met.
Yeah. For me, the fear that I actually had, which about that time, and it wasn't necessarily about the marriage, it was more about my life and the way it was, that I was more or less sort of, flatlining towards death, with absolutely no fluctuations, like you just go through these motions of like doing the same thing, maybe you get a promotion, maybe you get a bit more money, maybe you get another car, maybe you get bifolding doors, maybe you get a bigger house. It's like, it's like a sort of routine that has been, set out for you by by society almost. I think a lot of guys go through that. Like literally, I'm like a cliche,
So but I think we need at some point to focus on how these thoughts might be framed in a ceremony. You see what I mean?
One, I think that invariably there's music involved.
Yeah.
And invariably there's readings of various sorts involved. And then there is a means by which you could express regret or sorrow or acknowledgement of pain, I suppose. Like it does need to end on an upbeat note.
I think that's a great note as well to say to people watching it that there is perfectly okay life after divorce, and yes, but we do need to deal with it in a good way. It sounds counterintuitive that you celebrate a divorce because, it is marking the end of something. But relationships, they're more organic than that. You just don't turn them off with a switch. They have a sort of afterlife that glows within inside us for good or ill. And I think Dilly and Mark are trying to make that glow all good. Of course there's been pain and anger and hurt, but I really, really want to help them have an event where they come away from it thinking, that was a good thing, that marked that change in life in a good way. And isn't that what all rituals are?
Back in Newbury, my task is to bring some ritual magic to Ben and Sarika's civil wedding. In the hope of some inspiration, I've decided to delve deeper into Ben's life. And I've found myself joining him for some cricket practice, which turns out for me to be much needed.
Whoa. Oh, no. The last time I played cricket was on a beach in 1968. I get the impression that cricket's pretty important for you.
Oh, definitely. I've been playing league cricket since I was 12, 13. It's the one constant that I've had over those 20 years. It's like, oh, brilliant, it's cricket season's coming around. It is a big part of my life.
When we're making a series about ritual, I mean, you can't get more ritualistic in many ways than a game of cricket, can you?
Yeah, and a lot of people have their different sort of mannerisms. You know, some of the guys will pad up the same way all the time. They'll have their own little superstitions when they go out to bat. They'll have their own little fidgets. There's a lot of rhythm in the game.
I just wondered, in a kind of hierarchy of your identity, where cricket stood.
I think if you asked other people, I think 9 times out of 10 they would know me because of cricket.
Well, that's interesting.
They wouldn't necessarily know me because of work or being at school or college. They would predominantly know me because of cricket.
That's fascinating, because that's a network, isn't it? That's a community that you built up through this ritual. Just talking to you now, I can see how much it means to you. And looking around, you know, there is something almost, I would say it's quite moving. I remember when I was at school, cricket always did seem like this archaic thing. It still is. There's something about 3 sticks and a bat and a leather ball that is still harking back to the 18th century when it began. I think the way that they're kind of melded into the seasons and the landscape, you know, a British village, what's it made up of? You know, you've got a church, a pub, and a village green where they would play cricket. You know, this is the holy triumvirate of British rural life, really. And these guys are still practicing that religion. They're still supplicants at the 22-yard aisle.
The newly uncovered religion of cricket has given me an idea for an artwork to be used at Ben and Sarika's civil ceremony.
I chose the Staffordshire figure style because it was so English, and they're very much part of the English folk tradition, and came about the same time as cricket, because you get Staffordshire figures of early cricketers. But of course, in this case, you know, the inevitable comparison is with the Hindu gods and goddesses. And these were the domestic figurines that populated, you know, the folk shrines of Britain. Ben and Sarika Forever, I put it on the front because that's what marriage means, isn't it? That we're going to be with this person forever. As someone who's been married for 30 years, you know, I celebrate that, but that's what this was about in a way, is that, you know, a marriage is like a ceramic in that it will endure, but it's also very fragile. You know, ceramic will, if I bury this in the ground, it will look exactly the same in 1,000 years' time when I dig it up. But of course, all I have to do is knock it off the table and it's smashed. You know, and in that paradox is marriage as well.
But I fear when the ceramic breaks, many of us are at a loss for what to do. I think a ritual could help. And with that in mind, I'm going to talk to Dilly about what she wants from her divorce ceremony.
If we're going to do this ritual, I'm kind of interested in what purpose it could serve for you.
With regards to divorce, there's quite a lot of shame involved. And I think I would like this ceremony to dissipate that shame. It was a really slow, painful process for both of us. And we need support moving on and out of that, you know. And that's hopefully what the people within your community and your family help you do.
Traditionally, that, you know, the community also had the opposite effect. And so you're asking for quite a radical thing, in a way, is for the society to sort of go from sort of supporting you as a couple to saying, OK, I can understand this now, and now we're going to support you in your decision to get divorced.
I don't want this divorce to define me. I want to celebrate what we do have. And I think this whole process has made me very appreciative of what I do have.
Yeah.
But there are two more people involved in this process whose feelings I need to understand. Dilly and Mark's teenage daughters, Ruby and Rosie.
Should we say grace? No, let's not. No. We never say grace.
I'm joining them for their twice-weekly dinner with their dad.
So what do you think about the idea of having a divorce ceremony for your mum and dad?
I think it's a really good idea. It's quite cool.
What would you want it to say?
Right. Oh, I think how like happy it is, maybe like how it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I wanted to show that you can move on and
Yeah.
like there's more to like life
it's
than
the
just
right to
like
move
being in a relationship sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. And that it doesn't have to like you said, like it doesn't have to be the end. It can
Yeah.
like carry on from there. But then I don't know how you'd show it, but more like, okay, like this is the end of the ceremony, but you can go and like on with your life now and carry on.
I think you two are important in it because you've got most of your lives in front of you. And also I think children aren't allowed to be important in divorce. So I think you should be important in it.
Definitely. I mean, I believe the children are our future for sure. There's no doubt about it. You know.
That's true.
I think Michael Jackson does as well.
I think it was Whitney Houston. Thinking about Dilly and Mark and how we might do a divorce ceremony. I like the idea that the ceremony might be outdoors. So I like the idea that we might have a procession and, you know, a flag is something that goes with processions. I will be taking a pair of scissors to the ceremony. You know, you can't shy away from it that a divorce is the end of something. Something is broken, something is destroyed. But with Dilly and Mark, you know, they're showing that this thing needn't be a fucking disaster. You know, for so many kids particularly, divorce is, you know, a trauma. And I think they're showing that, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. I think they're great. Should be celebrated with the flag that you're cutting off.
Sarika and Ben's wedding day has finally arrived. Tomorrow, I'll be unveiling my artwork at their civil ceremony. But today, as a guest at the temple in Watford, it's my chance to see the traditional Hare Krishna ritual in all its glory.
Ladies and gentlemen, does anyone know why he's here today? He's here to claim the bride as his wife. Hey! If there's any obstacles coming his way, this gentleman is ready to remove those obstacles. This clay pot I hold in my hand represents those obstacles. For Ben, the groom, to get the hand of the bride today, he has to smash the clay pot. Okay, so Ben, give us your best Jackie Chan move, yeah? 1, 2, 3! Try your Bruce Lee move now.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna! Hare Krishna! I accept you.
I accept you
as my partner in life.
As my partner in life.
As my partner in life.
For 100 autumns.
For 100 autumns.
Om Jnana Devarandasya Jnana Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, As a priest, I can happily announce in the eyes of Vishnu Bhagwan, the bride and the groom are now officially husband and wife!
The takeaway point I come away with after seeing my first Hare Krishna wedding is that the people here are very easy with ceremony, with tradition, with ritual. It has the sort of relaxed fluency. It's beautiful, and it's sort of joyful, and so it should be. It's a wedding, you know. I tell you, I've enjoyed it a lot. For a 2-hour ritual, it was actually, I was not bored. It was good. The next day at Newbury Racecourse, I'm hoping the surprise I have in store for Ben and Sarika's civil wedding has anything approaching that level of emotional impact. Yeah. A secret for now. My contribution to the ceremony isn't just an artwork. In a few moments, I'll be asking everyone here to participate in an entirely new ritual.
It gives me great pleasure to declare that you are now husband and wife. We'd like to kiss them.
Hello, everyone. Hello, I'm Grayson Perry. I'm an artist, and so I've made something for Ben and Sarika here. So here's the thing I have made.
It's dirty. That is very good.
And I've also thought that it should involve all of you lot as well, because all rituals are witnessed. You know, you've witnessed Ben and Sarika getting married today, and that's a big part of it. And so I wanted to include you. So under everybody's seat, there should be an envelope, okay? And in each envelope, you'll find a pencil and a little piece of paper. All I want you to do is complete the sentence. And the sentence says, the secret of a long and happy marriage is...
And then fold it up nice and small, the piece of paper, because I've got to get 200 plus in this little box. And then perhaps one day, in an emergency, they might need to break the box open.
Does it not open?
No, it doesn't open.
There's a little note on the back that says breaking in the case of an emergency.
But I'm trusting that you love each other enough to never open the box.
We won't.
Thank you, my lovely. It's lovely.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
We could do a hug or a handshake.
A hug and a handshake. The civil ceremony, you know, it's always going to lose in a competition against a full-blown Hindu wedding. But all it needs, ritual, is to ramp up what's there anyway. And I think that to fully embrace what ceremony is also to fully embrace what the ceremony is about and to feel it. And often, you know, it can get lost in the organisation and the table runners and the menu for the meal. And in the end, it's about love and community. And that's a great thing. Dilly and Mark have decided to hold their divorce ceremony in the park where he proposed to her. And to begin, they've arranged a procession of their friends in the order they came into their lives over the 25 years they spent together. My finished artwork is being carried by Rosie and Ruby.
I don't think we would have reached this point now without the magnanimity and positivity of Dill. And I know that I can't fully understand the pain that I may have caused for Dill, but I guess I'd like to express my sorrow for how I've hurt you and my gratitude to you for staying strong. Although our paths might be diverging, we will always be bound by what our love has created. Rosie and Ruby are testimony to everything positive that we had, and their positive energy will live on.
When I first met Mark, he was like a beautifully wrapped gift. And when I unwrapped him, he was just as lovely inside. He is a good man and a wonderful father, and I know that I married him for all the right reasons. This experience has taught me, through great loss, to appreciate the treasures that I have and how precious those treasures are, because at any moment, everything can change. But now it is time to draw a line, time to face a new beginning.
Now I have something here that I want you to do.
Oh.
I want you to cut it in half.
Oh.
I think Mark should do it.
No, I can't just do it alone.
You can start the
I'll
cutting.
start the line. I'll do up to our hands, and then you can do
If the girls
beyond.
could hold it tight.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
go. Fine.
together in the middle here. Because one of the things I wanted to celebrate here, really, was the fact you are here together.
Yeah.
And I think you're a fantastic example of how to have a divorce. And I think one of the most important things is you're here with all your friends. And so I'd now like to invite everyone to come and pin it back together for you. So come up here now and do it. Nobody gets married thinking this is going to happen. But there's good ways and there's bad ways to bring it to a close. And I think that if we're going to be grown-ups and we've got children, these are really important things to think about. This is not a trivial party. This is a celebration of emotional maturity and love. Even though it's the end of a relationship, it's about love. That's a great thing.
This is a series about the biggest events in our lives. Everywhere on Earth, human societies have found ways to mark the rites of passage almost all of us go through.
You're so beautiful.
Thank you. So I'm going to travel to some extraordinary places around the world to see how they celebrate the landmarks of life: birth, coming of age, marriage, and death.
Ritual has shaped our culture. It has come out of our natural bodily instincts, the way we behave, the way we move, the way we feel.
I'm Grayson Perry. I'm an artist. And in my work, I've always tried to cast an anthropological eye on the world I live in.
That spirit has just come all over my shirt.
And it seems to me that here in fast-changing, increasingly secular Britain, we're in danger of forgetting what a rite of passage can do for us.
I've been at funerals where the priest forgot the name of the deceased and their partner.
So I'm hoping the ceremonies I experience will have something important to teach us.
Look, what a privilege!
When I get back, I'll meet people in the UK who are going through the same events and who want to mark them in ways that feel true to their lives.
I'm really interested to talk to you about how we can help you have a really good death.
Together, we'll devise our own ceremonies, rites of passage for how we live now.
All rituals were invented by somebody. They didn't just come out of the ether from God.
In this programme, I've come to Bali, in Indonesia, to experience a rite of passage I've long wanted to see, away from the crowded tourist beaches, in the lush green interior of the island. The Balinese still live a life imbued with delicate ritual. Essie and Kumang are a professional couple who run a family business. Tomorrow, their daughter Ochi will be 105 days old, the moment in Balinese tradition when she first fully becomes part of our human world. Until that point, it's seen as the height of misfortune if she should ever touch the ground. So every waking moment of her life so far, Ochi has been held and passed around from hand to hand.
How will you feel tomorrow when Oche touches the ground for the first time?
Mungkin secara emosional, upacara menyambut besok saya tunggu-tunggu, pasti saya sangat terharu ya dengan acara besok. Karena apa? Besok waktunya mungkin secara, bisa saya katakan secara apa sih kasarnya, besok itu dia sudah bisa mulai menyentuh tanah, dia sudah harus realistis sama hidupnya, sama keadaan sekitarnya. Dia sudah harus merasakan apa itu keras, apa itu dingin di tanah, biar nggak apa ya lebih terharu lah saya gitu loh.
For me, when I heard about this ritual of holding the baby all the time, I cried.
Oh, terharu.
It's like you are making a bridge from inside of you to the world, and there's like an in-between place. It's like a kind of a womb, exterior womb. It's so beautiful.
The day of Ochi's birth ceremony dawned. From early in the morning, the family, the neighbours and the entire community were preparing for the ritual they call her Nyambutin. After 3 months of living in not quite human yet limbo, Ochi's tiny feet would finally, gingerly, touch the ground.
Hello!
Hello!
Hello, your big day. Hello. Your big day. There's Mummy.
Yeah.
Look, what a privilege. Your big day. Your big day. Well, it's the last moments in the spirit world. I'm holding her. I'm part of it. I feel so privileged. Here we go. Becoming a part of the real world. Oh, want Mummy, want Mummy. Most of the people that have held little Ochi are probably here today, you know, and everybody's having a last little cuddle. It seems to be part of the ritual. And many rituals seem to come out of our everyday experience. But what we're seeing here, in a way, is that whole idea of it takes a village to raise a child, and it's, you know, her upbringing is actually bringing people together physically. And it doesn't matter, you know, whether your spiritual connection is super strong or not. You're doing it, and it's part of it, and it's informing your body. And everybody here is, you know, doing what we all do with children, hugging them close. But here it's formalised. We're all taking part in making this little 3-month-long exterior womb. So her transition into the harsh realities of the world are that little bit softer, that little bit lovelier. The colour, the noise, the smell, the precision, the glamour of it, in a way, it's overwhelming. I mean, it's a sensual overload, and it's having a physical effect on me. I don't know what it's doing for everyone else. It's creating a kind of universe, framing how we're meant to feel, getting us ready for the big moment. And this is something that goes back a long time. And it's not just theatre. We're not just here to watch a spectacle. We are part of it as well. Everybody here is doing something. And all of this is a marvellous, multi-layered frame for how we feel about a little child coming into the world.
The climax of the ceremony arrived. In the form of a small bowl of dirt and flowers on the ground, little Ochi was about to feel, for the very first time, the hard realities of life. To bring a new person into the world is surely one of the most consequential things we can do in our lives. And I'd seen in Bali what felt like a timeless way to acknowledge that. Now I wanted to find out if ceremonies like this could work for the very different ways we bring babies into the world in Britain. I looked for the most modern and high-tech stories of childbirth I could think of. It's 7:45 in the morning at the neonatal unit of Brumfield Hospital in Chelmsford, and the day nurses are about to begin their 12-hour shift.
Casper is on 4 bottle feeds. He is fine in himself. He keeps dipping his sats when he's squirming. And Ezra is on his 3 alley feeds. He's completing alternate bottles. Then in room 8, you've got Hunter and Indy May Patton, who are now 23 days old. Hunter is in nasal cannula or air up to 0.03 overnight. Still is on the minimal amount of caffeine because he is tachycardic.
All I understood was these bits, how old they were born at, yeah? Pretty young. What's the youngest you would get on this board that would survive?
Because of our level unit, we keep anything above 27 weeks. But if they came before that time, we would stabilise and then we would ship out to our tertiary centre, which is Cambridge.
Yeah, 26 weeks, considering what term is 40 normally, yeah. That is really, really little. Do you think you need a certain sensibility to work on this unit?
I would say we're all quite kind, aren't we, on here? Like,
quite calm.
Yeah, quite calm. Love babies, obviously. We love a cuddle.
And is there a whole science of how you ease the kind of newborn into the world?
Yeah, especially with the extreme premature babies. They don't tend to like to be stroked like that. They don't like that as much. They like to be held, so hand on head, hand on feet, and it kind of makes them feel secure as if they were in the stomach again. With the premature, like the really premature babies as well, we'll put a blanket over the top of the incubator to block out the sound and the light. If it's too noisy or too bright, they can drop their heart rates, they can drop their oxygen levels. They're very sensitive to it. Once they're out having cuddles with the mum, you'll see their heart rate stabilises, their temperature maintains well, their breathing kind of settles. They love it. Yeah. So yeah, lots of cuddles.
Hello.
A fortnight ago, Lindsay and David came to Brumfield for what they thought would be a routine scan. But complications with Lindsay's pregnancy meant their twins, Indy May and Hunter, had to be born by emergency caesarean, 3 months premature.
All right. Yeah.
Indy May is still very poorly, but today Lindsay's been encouraged to pick up Hunter for only the 2nd time in his short life.
Yeah, it's scary. I know. Yeah, perfect. Hello. All right.
The
blanket? It's in there. I'll get you a blanket.
What's it been like, sort of having to have your children, but you're not able to sort of touch them?
It's just an emotional roller coaster. It really is, isn't it? We've got a 5-year-old son at home. We have to get him to school. And Indy May only came into this room yesterday, so she was in another room. So it was knowing which baby to come to first when you come onto the ward. But at least you can go home every day knowing they're in safe hands. And they almost take them on as if they're their own children, don't they, you feel? Especially in the early days. Because Indy May was 15 hours, and Hunter, before I got to meet either of them. So for 15 hours I was a mum who'd never met her children.
Because they were whisked away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened to us. I followed my daughter Florence. I went off with her, and I was sort of in a place like this, sort of looking at the incubator, going, "Oh my God," and Phil was upstairs, not happy. I don't think she'd even seen the baby, because
That's what you was. Yeah.
And that's an odd feeling. It's an odd feeling, isn't it, as the father?
I was rushed in to sort of show them. I didn't know where to look, what to do. I was all a bit overwhelmed with it all, really.
You're going to form quite a relationship with the staff here.
Yeah, we could be here another 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I had a moment last week, Wednesday. I just broke down in tears, and the nurses just, because I had 2 babies in 2 different rooms, and one of the nurses was like, "This mum needs both her babies here now," and they did. It took an hour. They did everything they could and got both babies in the same room, and got me sat between them, holding Hunter, and it was just, yeah. So they look after us mums as well, so it's lovely.
The word that's really key is trust, and that's why we're here. If we think of our community and support of our village, especially around important times like birth, we have to depend on other people who perhaps have more skills and experience. And of course here it's incredibly high tech and incredibly modern science. And yet, that relationship of trust of the parent to the doctors and the nurses is the same as it would have been to the midwives and priests of ancient times. We haven't lost it, it's still there.
I'd returned to the neonatal unit, but for my second birth ceremony, I met another family having babies in a thoroughly 21st century way.
Oh, look at this, is stretching its arm. Look.
Laura is having her 25-week scan at Darlington Memorial Hospital.
Look at
There
this.
you go. She's going again. She's a right wriggler.
Sarah and Cobby's fertilised embryos have been implanted into her womb.
Beautiful, look.
She's such a wriggler.
And there's the echogenic band.
This very modern family is going to have twins.
I know there are babies,
Yeah.
but I suspect that, speaking for myself, that until they're in our arms, there's an element of fear that something might still go wrong.
Yeah.
I suspect that's probably the true of any parent, whether you're carrying or not carrying.
It's like if it's your first or second experience, it's like, oh, it's normal pregnancy. You're not exposed to the bad experience. And like I said, there's always fears, but being through the whole process and then that seeing the scans and seeing Laura sent us a picture of the belly grows and everything, it's become very realistic. You know, you're getting there, and it's not far away from in the future. You're just looking for what?
We're just over halfway now.
Yeah, it's a twinkling.
So we're getting there. So now it's on a countdown now. We've done the big count up to 18 and a half weeks, and now it's a countdown till 37 weeks.
Yeah.
The foot. So one is facing with tummy upwards, and the other one's facing tummy downwards. So literally.
Sarah and Cobby have been longing for children for over a decade.
In 2008, 8, we got pregnant for the first time. But it was like a switch flicked, and the minute we found out we were pregnant, it was like the thing I wanted the most in the world ever. So our first pregnancy, everything was fine until I think it was just after 8 weeks, I miscarried. We ended up in what we then started to call the sad room, because we ended up in the sad room quite a lot. And I guess at the first, you don't ever think that this is something that you cannot do and is going to happen. But it happened to me a lot and again, and it got to 10 in the end.
When we found out about surrogacy, it was like within a week we can find out, we can find that information, see how it's working, and we just jump on that opportunity.
The week that Cobby discovered Surrogacy UK, there was a social in Leeds, literally around the corner from where we live. It's the first time they'd ever had one in Leeds.
It was just instant friendship and an instant connection there and then.
People watching this, they're going to be thinking, this is quite, the surrogacy is quite sort of unusual, and it sort of sounds a bit like Handmaid's Tale or something, sort of almost to some people. So the question, begging is, Laura, why did you want to become a surrogate mother?
Just the fact that my body is there and it works absolutely fine, and I just don't have a use for it, if I'm honest. Because
there's lots of people whose body works fine and they don't want to become surrogate mothers. So I'm sort of wondering what's special about you that you wanted to give this sort of gift.
My kids really did change my life, and I could never imagine being in the position where I couldn't have them. So to be able to give that gift to a couple that can't, especially like Sarah and Cobby and that, I just think that they're such deserving parents, and it is not their fault that obviously Sarah's body doesn't work in the way that it should.
We've got to a point where we think this dream is never going to happen, and then you get these women who give you hope and possibility that actually that door hasn't shut, it's just opened in a different direction.
We met up again at Sarah's baby shower in a village hall outside Leeds, and it seemed at first like a very modern gathering. A room filled with so-called IPs, intended parents, and their surrogates, taking part in a ritual recently imported from America.
This sort of meeting of the sacred and the profane, I think, is just natural. It's just that nowadays, in the kind of manufactured 21st century present, it can grate a bit sometimes that we're being sold something to kind of power a situation which is genuinely powerful. The bringing of a child into the world, someone's flogging tat on the back of it. But I think we've got to get used to that. It was always thus, but it's much more obvious now.
I'd come to Yorkshire with questions in my mind about why a mother would willingly give away a baby. But that's not how this group of women saw it at all.
So I understand that you're all surrogates, is that right?
Yeah.
Have you, Laura I know is, pregnant and on the way, so have you all done it already?
I've had 2 little girls for 2 different families, and I'm trying for a third now for a separate family.
Do you have an ongoing relationship with the parents and the children?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a big myth that the baby is handed over. I do bond with the child. I love the bond that I have with my surrogate children. I've never handed a baby over. It's just we work together as a team, like Laura is with Sarah and Cobby to create these twins. When they're born, they'll just be extended members of the team.
You're not just creating parents, you're creating grandparents and aunties and uncles, and that feeling goes on forever. It's so nice to get photos of the little girl that I helped create, and see her grandparents and how happy they are to spend time with her. You can't put a price on that, even if it is a bit of discomfort for yourself. It's so worthwhile to be able to do that.
An interesting reflection that I've had at this baby shower is of that ceremony in Bali, where the child was held for 3 months, not just by the parents, but by the relations, by the neighbours, by the friends. And that concrete fact that you must not allow the child to touch the earth was a kind of framework in which to build this community around the child, which is what we're doing here, which is what is happening in this hallway in many ways. It's a relationship between adults that starts long before conception and goes on for the whole life of the people involved. In thinking we're coming here to look at something that had never happened before, we found something that's always been happening. It's food for me as an artist to think about the story of life.
I've come back to Chelmsford to spend more time shadowing the nursing team at an NHS neonatal unit. Halfway through the frankly exhausting 12-hour shift, I started to feel a strange, almost hypnotic sense of calm.
There's lots of cliches about hospitals that involve sort of doors slamming open and trolleys pushing along and you know, people squealing and screaming and you know, of a general air of sort of distress. And here, everything is precise and also flexible. It's a dance. It's a sort of a uterine dance. When I'm walking about in here, I sort of slightly feel I'm in sort of amniotic fluid. I'm kind of like... Does that sound bizarre?
Yeah.
The drama of it is in its sort of significance, really, that we're seeing life being nurtured when in the past, you know, it wouldn't have been. So we're seeing a kind of a slow motion miracle happen here over, you know, sometimes 3 months.
Laura and Abby are nearing the end of their long progress through the unit. Their twin boys, Ezra and Casper, are the second of the slow-motion miracles I witnessed at the hospital. They've been cared for here for almost 100 days.
Gosh, you seem very at home there. You know what button to push.
Yeah. You get used to it.
So this is like a second home.
Yeah, it's definitely a second home.
It seems a very calm place.
It is. It makes me emotional talking about it, but no, it is. It is. It's an amazing place.
What's emotional about it for you?
I think it's a journey more. It's the journey. And at 26 weeks, their skin is so thin, and they're not. Like, you can't even really hold them or touch them, or because if you did, their skin can break, and they look lifeless. They're just stuck it, sort of needles in their arms, cannulas in their arms. It's not nice to see them like your kids like that. To me, I just look at them and I just thought I wasn't going to make it, you know. Like,
So it's frightening.
yeah, very.
Hospitals, they're sterile, for, you know, they look and feel how they look and feel.
Yeah.
And that often, it's like our dreams of kind of mother parenthood. We don't have fantasies about, because most people have babies in hospitals, and yet we don't. There's not a romance of the hospital. They're places we avoid.
Yeah. I suppose I think it is slightly different when you're in here for quite a while. You get to know all the staff. We get to know all the parents and things like that. And I think we're often going through the baby's journey as well. Obviously not as deep, but by the time they get down to this room, we're kind of preparing them to go home. So that's a nice feeling.
How do you think you'll feel when you leave?
I can't wait to leave and go home and lock the doors and lock the windows and just stay at home.
Have a bit of privacy.
Yeah, exactly. I think you need that when you've been in the unit for so long and you haven't had that time with just you and your baby or babies. You know, we haven't had that yet. So.
time when they quieten everything down, they don't do many procedures and they close the curtains down and everybody keeps quiet. I suppose, you know, to emphasise really that we're in a womb here. This is a technologically driven replica of being inside their mother. This feeling of calmness around these tiny, delicate creatures is what really permeates me, that they shouldn't be born yet. They're still in their third trimester. Some of them are months away from their due date, and it feels like we're on board a kind of spaceship drifting through inner space on our way to our time when they should have come. And so I think that's what I get really. And the crew all move around with sort of almost wraith-like care, because everything is so delicate. So every little wire, every little instrument, every little piece of nappy and cloth has to be moved about so delicately because these babies could tear. And I think that's the feeling I get, is that it's all calm and slow and gentle, and we're aware. The little twinkling lights as we pass through this kind of limbo land. And then in months, in weeks, these little lives will pop into the daylight of their childhoods. Well, that caught me out.
Just as I started to worry that the artist in me might be getting a bit carried away, I met the most senior scientist on the unit, consultant paediatrician, Dr. Syriac.
Where's Mum?
Mum is behind.
Don't want to be...
So how much of your job, would you say, is social and ritualistic as opposed to medicinal and scientific?
I think the human body has got amazing capacity to heal. Actually, it's not the doctors who heal the body. It's actually the human body itself has got a healing process.
Mm.
So when a mother, the child comes to my office, distressed and things, if I can get her to walk out of my office reassured with a smiley face, actually, I haven't done anything to the child yet, okay? I've already given maybe a prescription or something like that. But I know that the child will get better.
Mm.
Because actually it's the healing sort of vibrations of the mother, which actually is the healer for the child, to be honest with you. Give a little bit more emphasis to the breast milk here.
I'm very touched by it because, you know, what I witness here is care in its broadest sense, which is sort of love, you know, and its attention. The phrase that was rattling around my mind when I was in Bali was always, it takes a village to raise a child. The NHS, in many ways, we can see this behemoth of the NHS, but in fact it's sort of a series of villages, you know. And often we forget it in these great grey factories of hospitals, that we are practicing a kind of communal love of life.
I planned to return to Broomfield Hospital for a ritual that expressed what I'd felt here. As Laura, Abby, Casper and Ezra finally got to leave the unit after being here for 100 days, I was struck by what a life-changing rite of passage I was witnessing, and how bereft of ceremony the Balinese would think our lives are. Then I got some news from Sarah and Cobby and dashed up to the West Yorkshire village where they live.
I Hello. Wow.
Come in, so they're not in the cold. You're going to have a cuddle.
Very careful. Oh. Oh, 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 oh. It's funny, it has quite a strong effect on me, actually. Because I had my little girl
And also, you've seen them from being a bump.
Yeah. Wow.
We picked Laura up at 6:30 in the morning on Monday, and we drove to the hospital, and it was just really surreal. We walked in, we'd got our bags, I've got photographs of us walking into the hospital. It was so surreal. So it took us down about 11:15. I did a playlist for us. So we've got a picture of Laura lying on the operating table with my phone next to her ear, and we were just playing lots of really nice music just to relax, and she and I were chatting and cracking jokes. And the next thing you know, we just heard a baby cry, and I just went, oh my God, it's a baby. And yeah, they literally brought them out a minute between, so 11:36 and 11:37. And then I think it's probably one of the most proudest moments to be able to walk out with our two daughters and to present them to Cobby and introduce him to his girls.
It was a complete shock, suddenly seeing Sarah holding two babies at the same time, coming towards you.
I was quite impressed that I managed to master the double holding straight off.
Yeah, I could imagine.
So scary, they were so tiny. Still are still tiny. Do you want to try two?
Try two? Yeah. Oh, God. That'd be
you mustered one.
Here we go, then. Come on, then. Let's have a go. Look at this. Oh. Oh. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're a bit... it's tricky, isn't it? Well,
You master it, honestly. It's amazing how fast you adapt.
now you've actually got the babies here. Have you thought at all about how it, continues with Laura and things like that?
I think she's going to be the auntie that spoils them.
So this is the sculpture that I'm going to give to Sarah and Cobby and Laura. This is going to be shrunk down to 1/4 of its size and then cast into silver. This whole programme about birth, I've been kind of surprised a few times by the strength of my reaction to the events I've witnessed. I mean, the early stages of a child's life, when everything is incredibly malleable at a very primal level. What it is to be a human, how do you interact with other humans, what is the world, am I loved? These things are just intuited by this little child, and maybe there's something about my own experience that is responding to that. We've all been that little baby, that little child in a parent's arms, feeling vulnerable and having very basic needs, whether they're met or not. And there's something in us that responds to that and echoes, did we get that? Was it good enough? And we're moved by that, especially when I see it done so well. This is what I'm celebrating.
It's wonderful to welcome everybody here today. It's a privilege to be here for you both, Sarah and Cobby, and an honor to welcome new life to your family and to your new community.
Sarah and Cobby are Jewish, so they already have a rich and ancient heritage of ritual to draw on.
אלוהינו ולאבותינו, קיים את הילדה הזאת לאביה ולאמה.
At their traditional naming ceremony for the twins, all I had to add was my own small celebration of the very 21st century part of their story. Laura's been unwell, so couldn't make it on the day, but Laura, Sarah and Cobby will have a lifelong connection through the twins they've jointly brought into the world. And that's what I wanted my contribution to the ceremony to celebrate.
So here's the artwork which I've made for this ritual today. It's solid silver, and the two parts are joined by this chain. In the case of Cobby and Sarah and Laura, you know, the womb and the DNA, the egg and the sperm, they were kind of geographically parted, which is a very modern situation, you know. And in many ways, this here is to celebrate them coming back together. Because we have a kind of Jewish naming ceremony as well, the village that's raising the child isn't just the family and the friends and the neighbours, but it's also a wider community. So it should be passed from hand to hand, really, to sort of symbolise the care. People are going to have to do this carefully. And they're also going to feel the weight of it. And the weight perhaps is, you know, a little symbol of the responsibility we all hold for those children. Because Laura has done something that is inconceivable to many people. She has carried their baby inside her body for nothing, for no reward, apart from the joy of giving. And I want this little silver fetus in a little silver womb to symbolise that generosity. This silver jewel is ultimately a present for the twins. I wanted you to kind of promise a sort of a contract, really, that if I give this to you now, I want you to promise that the first time you see Laura, you give it to her to keep until the next time she sees you. And then you can keep doing that until the children are old enough to take ownership of it. Okay? This is you and Cobby. And this is Laura. What ritual does is it's physical. We do something. We welcome that baby. We wrap them in a shawl. We hold them. We're not only giving them a name, we're also giving them their identity. And from birth, they're taking that on. And so the ritual with which we welcome them into the world is that most primary scaffolding of a personality. It's really important. And if it's loving and joyous and a sensory pleasure, then surely that can only help to bring up a happy child, a contented child, a child who feels safe in the world. And that's all we want, really, is one that feels held by their family, by their village, and maybe by their beliefs.
For my final birth ceremony, I've come back to the neonatal unit in Chelmsford.
What these little golden babies are gifts for the staff here at the neonatal unit. They're talismans of life and love. Oh, hello.
New mums, Laura and Lindsay, have brought their families back to the ward to help me. Together we're going to stage a ceremony that will mark the special modern magic of their children's birth. How long were you here altogether?
73 days with Hunter and 80 days with Indy May.
God.
So, yeah, just got home.
And Laura, how long have you been back now?
A couple of months now, I've been home. And it's been amazing. And the staff, they've been amazing. They were amazing. And we're still in contact with them, and they're all brilliant there.
Hello, if you can come round here. We were thinking how we would ritualise this moment, and perfect soundtrack for this particular occasion. I wanted to do something that kind of not just celebrated medicine, but the NHS and you particularly. For all the kind of technical wonders and skills that you bring to this ward, there is something that is, I think, just as important, which is your humanity. So now I would ask Laura and Lindsay to say a few things, because these are the people you've helped.
That's what I do. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for everything you've done. Just, you saved my babies.
Yeah, it's amazing what you're doing, not for our babies, but for everyone. Definitely keep doing what you're doing.
So now I would like to ask Laura and Lindsay to give each of you one of these little golden babies as a kind of the spirit of all the little lives you've helped bring into the earth.
Thank you.
Having been around the world looking at different sort of rituals, I think that their main job is to sort of bring home how we feel about things and how important they are. And I think that it would be a nice idea if we had more rituals around something as important as the NHS, because these institutions, they are the pillars of our society. And it's as near as we've got in this country to a religion. And this is just a little high-tech nativity. I hope the NHS is still around when you're an old person and you need it all again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you.
This is a series about the biggest events in our lives. Everywhere on Earth, human societies have found ways to mark the rites of passage almost all of us go through.
You're so beautiful.
Thank you.
So I'm going to travel to some extraordinary places around the world to see how they celebrate the landmarks of life: birth, coming of age, marriage, and death.
Ritual has shaped our culture. It has come out of our natural bodily instincts, the way we behave, the way we move, the way we feel.
I'm Grayson Perry. I'm an artist. And in my work, I've always tried to cast an anthropological eye on the world I live in.
That spirit has just come all over my shirt.
And it seems to me that here in fast-changing, increasingly secular Britain, we're in danger of forgetting what a rite of passage can do for us.
I've been at funerals where the priest forgot the name of the deceased and their partner.
So I'm hoping the ceremonies I experience will have something important to teach us.
Look, what a privilege!
When I get back, I'll meet people in the UK who are going through the same events and who want to mark them in ways that feel true to their lives.
I'm really interested to talk to you about how we can help you have a really good death.
Together, we'll devise our own ceremonies, rites of passage for how we live now.
All rituals were invented by somebody. They didn't just come out of the ether from God.
For this film, I'm travelling to the most remote place I've ever been, deep into the Amazon in northwestern Brazil. I've been on the road for 72 hours, and I'm embarking on the final leg of my journey by boat down the River Amazon. All of it to witness an extraordinary ceremony.
This programme is all about coming of age. How do we become an adult? How do we move on in stages of our life? What equipment do we need psychologically, spiritually, physically to deal with being an adult? And how do we get that?
I'm hoping I can learn something from an elaborate ceremony performed by the Ticuna people, the largest indigenous group in the Brazilian Amazon. They believe every girl must go through it in order to become a woman. And today, it's marking the coming of age of these two 13-year-old girls.
So these two young women who've just started menstruating are in seclusion and have been for some time in the house next door. And this specially constructed shelter here, this is where they're going to go through quite an arduous ritual. And at some point in a while, they'll be brought out of the hut and then they will be kind of on display in the village with everybody here going through the ritual together. And there's all sorts of, there's 1,500 litres of hooch here, so it might get quite raucous later on.
No men can enter the shelter, but our camera woman has been allowed in to talk to the girls. They're with the elder women, who've been teaching them the knowledge and skills needed for Ticuna womanhood. Among the women who are going to perform the ritual, called the Pelazon, is Carmelita, who herself went through it 20 years ago.
Carmelita, what is it like as a young girl to go through the Pelazon?
As the ceremony gathers pace, around us emerge the spirits of misrule, threats the girls may encounter during their adult lives. The ringleaders are these pantomime figures, whose improvised plastic penises are filled with curry sauce.
That spirit has just come all over my shirt. I'm an inseminated with misrule and danger. Here we are. I mean, this is the world these young women are entering. They're entering a world of sexual threat. This is a kind of brilliant sort of carnivalesque version of it. I love its misrule and the way that it's sort of anarchic, but also everybody's laughing. They all kind of know. It's not dark.
Now, as the girls are being prepared for release from the hut, one of the spirits begins to display whose symbolism isn't hard to grasp. With the walls of the hut now thrust open, the girls are birthed out into the supporting arms of their elders. But it's not over just yet. I'd been warned about what was coming next, but nothing could quite prepare me for what Carmelita and the other women were about to do to the girls.
I mean, this is pretty upsetting. I mean, this is the climax of a ceremony, and these two girls are having their hair pulled out by the older women of the village, and it's like their hair is of their childhood, and new growth as a woman will come through, but it's pretty heavy.
This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to witness. But as the ceremony draws to a close, I find myself wondering what role the tradition might play in the life of this close-knit community.
A ritual has to have an element of ordeal about it. It has to be difficult. It's not a walk in the park. You might be feeling very, very ambivalent about whether you want to do it or not. And I think, you know, that screwing your courage to the sticky point, knowing that your community is sort of willing you on, and you can see there the kind of women and holding and embracing and comforting and talking them through it. Because everyone here wants the girls to go through it. They want a successful ritual. There's something about this ritual that is witnessed by the whole of society, that you are marked, you are an adult, and therefore you've signed up to a set of responsibilities and also a status. I think there's something lacking in our society about that clarity. That's what a ritual does very well. It kind of takes away the ambiguity of it all. You, young girl, are now a woman. And I think that that's a powerful, powerful thing.
I've returned from the Amazon to Britain, where I believe we don't have a clear enough idea how and when we come of age. To work out how we might do it better, I'm going to devise 2 coming-of-age ceremonies. One with teenagers, roughly the same age as the girls in the Amazon. And because I think coming of age can happen at any age, my other ceremony is more surprising. A group of addicts in recovery who are finally taking responsibility much later in life. For my first ritual, I've travelled to Lewisham in southeast London.
It's a long way from the Amazon to here, but perhaps young women entering adulthood are facing many of the same challenges. You know, they've got their hormones racing through their body. They've got to start making relationships. They're perhaps, you know, thinking in the distance about parenthood and careers. And these are the same problems that are facing the Takuna back there in Brazil.
I'll be creating a ceremony with the teenagers at Lewisham's Young Women's Hub, a charity that supports and educates often vulnerable girls who haven't survived mainstream school.
There might be more jacket potatoes, girls.
This programme that we're making, but we went to the Amazon to look at a coming-of-age ceremony for girls. So what happened was, women of the village gather round each of the girls and pull all their hair out.
Their real hair? All hair.
All their hair.
Their real hair?
Yeah.
So they're bald now?
Yeah.
Wait, like actually like pulled it out?
Pulled out all their hair.
But they're crying?
They were crying, yeah. It was not a good watch. I found it very upsetting.
This happens to all of the girls?
Yeah.
Why?
Because for them it's symbolic, you know, and so they think that the hair that they've grown is the hair of childhood, and then the new hair that will grow back will be the hair of womanhood. I just had this thought, what if the people in the Amazon who I went to visit were looking at us here on the television, and they were watching us thinking, oh, look at these funny people in Great Britain, what are they up to? You know, what things do you think that they would notice about you at your age here in South London that they would kind of find odd?
I think part of it might be your individuality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how it's like all multicultural.
Yeah. And these 2 things, you really put your finger on it, in that when I asked them about how they felt about the ceremony and stuff, they would talk about how it related to the village. I'm just sort of thinking, because we don't have a thing like they do in the Amazon, a proper ceremony, maybe we're finding our own.
To work out what these girls might gain from a ceremony, I'm joining them for a lesson with school head Philippa on something that for many of us is a coming-of-age rite in and of itself: sex.
Right, okay, so we're going to do a very quick subject on unhealthy relationships. So really expand your thinking and put down words that describe unhealthy and negative aspects of relationships.
Because you wrote abuse and abusive.
No, abusive and abuse is different.
As I watch the lesson, I begin to think I'd seen something remarkably similar not too long ago.
How about when you've got cyberbullying going on, you've got trolls?
But the wise elder of Lewisham is teaching the girls not just about age-old threats, but also challenges that have only existed since the invention of the smartphone. To find out what they're up against, I'm sitting down with Casey, Abby, Kalia and Paris.
How do you think social media affects the nature of being a teenager, growing up, you know, to do with relationships and things like that? What effect do you think it has?
It's like peer pressure, because like you have to look a certain way, act a certain way, and it's like every girl has to be in a relationship and has to do what the boy says. Basically, it's like kind of controlling.
Really?
Yeah.
Has to do what the boy says. Would you agree with that?
Most boys, a lot of boys are controlling.
What kind of things might boys do using social media?
Porn. There's porn everywhere now. So like you could be 5 years old just watching a movie online and you just see a little naked person pop up and it's not their fault. Like,
Yeah. Do you think that changes your attitude to sex though?
Yeah.
How?
Boys who watch it, they might think that's how
it's meant to be.
I'm meant to, yeah.
So what they see, they might wanna.
That's what they want to do. That's how
Yeah.
That's the only way they know how. Because they watch it from young, like.
Yeah, they actually do.
So do you think social media makes it harder or easier or both?
It makes it harder to be in a relationship.
Really? In what way?
You have to live up to that expectation of being a good couple, so it makes it harder to be in a relationship. Where, as if there was no social media, I think it would have been easier to be in a relationship.
I'm interested in this idea of the sort of perfect relationship. What would it look like?
Clothes, wearing matching trainers. Everywhere she is, he is. Everywhere he is, she is.
When I have a boyfriend, I want to be with him all the time.
Yeah, but not wearing the same like matching outfits or like the same colour top and then trying to look the same. I don't like it. I find it cringy.
Is that the dominant thing that you see on social media? Is this idealised, perfect relationship?
YouTube couples, yeah. How they portray their partner. In our generation, you won't find no one like that. Because they're violent, they're not like that. So it's...
But that's the boys you
there's
go
so much
for. It's the
dream.
boys you go for. Like, you can find nice boys, but then...
Not in this area.
I mean, thinking back to the Amazon and that moment when the kind of spirits of kind of sexual misrule kind of like broke into the corral where the young girls were waiting, you know, in a way, that's what's happening online. From a very early age, they're confronted with sexual imagery and aggressive male sexual posturing, and also the pressure of, you know, these sort of almost professionalized ideals of what it is to have a relationship are kind of beamed down into their pockets. It's almost as if these girls need the same things as those girls in the Amazon need, but they need them on steroids. They need that confidence, they need self-assurance, they need caution, they need education. The jungle is really in their heads, and the internet is messing with them.
I'm beginning to think the ceremony we create with the girls should have something to do with social media. But when I asked Layla, who's 15, to write down her hopes for the next 5 years, I realised there's something else that they're struggling with too. Their aspirations for the future.
So you know, it's quite interesting that you've not written anything definite down on the thing. Do you want to write anything definite down on it?
I don't know.
Why don't you want to write anything definite down on it?
I don't know. If something's like set in stone that I can't change it, it kind of scares me. Yeah.
Why is it scary?
Because I have no control over it anymore.
Is it commitment that scares you?
Kind of. I don't want to commit to everything in the future. I don't want to.
Hearing how uncertain Layla is about her path in life, I begin to get an idea how a coming-of-age ceremony might help her and the other girls.
I think it's the classic problems of all teenagers, you know. Your brain is a soup. You're fumbling your way. Things are very ambiguous, and I think that they're desperately wanting kind of rules. And I think one of the roles that a traditional coming-of-age ceremony probably plays is kind of giving the sort of teenager whose mind is all over the place, you know, because they're going through such changes, giving them something to focus on and do, and telling them this is what you do to become an adult. Because in the modern age, it's so ambiguous how you become an adult, you know, and we hear of kidults, sort of 35-year-old guys who still sit on the sofa all the time playing video games, you know. Maybe we do need a more rigid idea of what being an adult might be, because being the permanent teenager is not working for a lot of people anymore.
For my next ceremony, I'll be taking the idea of the kidult to the absolute extreme. For my second rite of passage, I've travelled to Halifax in West Yorkshire to meet a group of people who seem on the face of it too old for a coming-of-age ceremony. A group of addicts in treatment at the Basement Recovery Project. The theory here is that your substance can trap you in an eternal childhood, and it's only when you put it down that you learn how to grow up. Teaching the courses is Addict in Recovery Stan.
Recovery is a choice. Something has brought you into this room today. What's brought you into this room today, Fiona?
To get better. Yeah, if I drink again, it will kill me due to my liver. So, yeah, I can't go back.
No. So it's about continuing to do what you do. Because we had that belief system when we first come through these doors that as soon as we'd put down that substance, everything would be fixed. When we come into recovery, we suddenly go from being this childlike person to starting to grow up.
So I'm interested because Stan mentioned about, you know, that you're coming from a childlike place in a way of dependency and kind of feeling omnipotent, you know, that you're the best. And I wondered what your thoughts on it were.
When you were acting like a child, if it wasn't what you wanted to do here, you would be a child. You'd take your ball and you'd go home. So you would to where you were. But to act like an adult, you've got to accept that it's not always going to be what you might want to do.
If you could speak to people who aren't in this group, what do you think you could teach people?
There's no shame in asking for help. I felt it was shameful to ask for help. That I should know, at my age, I should know better.
I'm kind of loath to say there is an exact parallel between a kind of pubescent child going through a coming-of-age ceremony and the recovery process for addicts. But I think there's many similarities there, and I think they're facing up to difficult facts and feelings, which they've been masking with alcohol or drugs. And there's going to be a new chapter in your life when you're going to take more responsibility, and it's going to be difficult.
We can all learn from this what it is to be human. And these guys, you know, once you've got beyond the thing of, oh, they're alcoholics, and sort of think, crikey, they're facing up to something that we all have. It's just that they've got a very exaggerated version of it. Of all the stories I heard that afternoon, there was one that most resonated with me. Fiona was a successful businesswoman, but 10 weeks ago, she was rushed to hospital with liver failure and nearly died. The people helping her turn her life around are her brother and sister, Chris and Lynn.
So Chris and Lynn, you know, describe to me Fiona's kind of addiction from your point of view. How did it affect you?
It's just so hard looking on and watching this person that you love, just their life starting to just crumble, I suppose.
It was chaos.
It was chaos, absolute chaos. Fiona at the time, it was just all about Fiona.
It's like having a really badly behaved 13-year-old who's determined to go off the rails.
We have a ceremony, and what would you hope, you know, that we would get out of that, or Fiona would get out of that?
I personally would like her to go, there's that line, and I've gone over that line now, so that the past is the past. I really honestly, we don't care about that bit anymore. We care that the fact that you're here and that you nearly weren't here. You know, walking out of the hospital and going, is that the last time I'm going to see her? Is a really big, it's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah. So how is it to hear that, Fiona?
I knew at the time, but totally powerless to do anything about it. And knowing as well I was hurting the family. You know, there are a lot of people I do want to thank, but most of all as well, just to, you know, say that I mean this, I really mean this. You know, for Chris and for Lynn, you know that I do love you, and thank you so much.
Fiona, it seems to me, is doing something courageous and fundamental to being an adult. She's taking responsibility for herself and her behaviour. And back at the basement, I'm about to join her and the others for an activity I haven't done since I was coming of age. Dancing. Sober.
Have you done this before?
No.
Oh, okay.
And I'm terrified.
Nor have I, no. So it's fine, you'll be fine. It's quite odd doing it sober, though, as well. When was the last time you danced?
Sober.
Yeah, when was it?
I can't remember.
No, me neither.
No.
Right, so first off, we're going to take our left hand. We offer it hip height. And we're about 4 inches apart, so we're nice and close. And all we're going to do, small semicircle to his left, and at the same time, we're going to step back. Step in. Excellent. One more time. Out. And back in. Guys, that's what you call leading the lady. All happy?
I think he's asking a lot here. No, I don't think there is a twist. Is there any twist in it? So you're pushing out, you're coming in, and then we're twisting. Is that how we go like that?
Don't change
I don't know, if I've danced sober many times in my life. No, I
That's
don't.
the biggest test, isn't it? If you can dance sober, you know you're well.
Yeah.
But it's the biggest challenge. Well, sober dancing, sober sex. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's easy to do other things sober, isn't it? But these are quite challenging things.
Well, I'd go with the dancing, We're making a programme here about rituals, and what could be more ritualistic than dancing, for Christ's sake? You know, the fact that we have to join in with our group. We're pack animals, and here we are. We're literally melding with another human being.
And on a makeshift dance floor in Halifax, I had a powerful revelation about how we come of age. True adulthood, just like dancing, is found not on our own, but in community with others. I now know what we need to do for the addict's coming-of-age ceremony.
What I'm working on is a design for an amulet. An amulet is a kind of protective trinket or something, you know, something that that has almost mystical powers to keep people safe. I mean, normally, you know, in history and different cultures, they will be used to sort of protect against evil spirits or something like that. And, well, you know, this is an amulet to protect against evil spirits, yeah, but they tend to be 70% proof. And I've done it like a big Chinese coin, really. But it's got that hole in the middle of it, which kind of represents the void that is surrounded by fear. But on the flip side is the cycle of life balance. And this is kind of to remind them of the ways to create a new life, push yourself to grow. It may be an extreme version, you know, having to become an addict who hits rock bottom, but in a way, we could all learn from this process. And maybe this is why we're talking about coming of age in this programme, because this shows us a version of reaching the end of one stage of your life where it's not working for you, and then going forward, hopefully, with one that will work for you.
In Lewisham, the girls have decided to create a coming-of-age video to be screened to their family and friends and then posted on social media. Just before the shoot, I'm catching up with 15-year-old Abby about her contribution.
So, here we are. What are your ideas?
I write raps. Like, I can rap out my feelings, and then I'm just like, all right, that's fine. That's just done and dusted. I've got my feelings up there.
What kind of feelings are you got going there?
There's a bit of anger, there's a bit of happiness, so it's all mixed.
And did you find it easy?
Yeah, I do find it easier than, like, talking to a therapist about it. It's
Oh, that's interesting. We're dealing with a kind of coming-of-age ceremony that's meant to be a marker.
Yeah.
You know, that is like, it's going to start to change things, the other side. So do you feel like the kind of things you're going to say are going to have a good effect on you?
It's like, you know that you're still going to be struggling with depression and the hurt from the past, but you'll know how to, like, be strong and, like, know where the help is.
Hello, Debbie Ann. Hello, Talia. Welcome.
Now, in front of a camera, each of the girls must do something that reflects their adult identity and reveals their hopes for the future.
So how are you feeling?
Nervous but excited at the same time.
It's just us.
Yeah.
There's so many people in it, it's making me stage fright.
Bit nervous.
Good.
It's not a good thing. I don't like feeling nervous.
You are interested in this whole business? So you're going to be a sort of a technical assistant type of person, okay? What have you done?
I've drawn a picture.
You've drawn a picture?
Yes.
And what are you going to do today?
Sing, I think.
And what song is it?
A song that I wrote called Close My Eyes.
What's it about?
It's about my childhood and my future.
Sounds absolutely perfect. Okay, can you talk me through the picture?
I guess this picture represents letting go to the past. Obviously, the past is represented by this character, and the future, this character. I want to go to university and study art. That's my plan.
Brilliant, it's brilliant. This video is going to go out on social media. I understand that might be quite a big thing for you.
Yeah, I feel like social media is evidence of something. So, like, if someone says something about you, or even just a text, if someone says something, there's proof of it being said. So that always gets brought up, and then, yeah, friendships break up.
That's really interesting. I think you've actually put your finger on one of the major problems of social media, is that when we have normal human relations that go, that aren't recorded,
yeah,
often we say things that are in the moment, that perhaps are just a reaction to what happens. And nobody's recording it. Nobody's going to throw it back in your face necessarily.
Anything you say is there forever.
Paris, are you ready for a take?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
So I've got stage fright. I don't like doing stuff like this in front of people, even though it's like my dream and that. Because there's me want to be a singer thinking it's going to be all easy, but it doesn't look easy. I don't even know what facial expressions to do. Oh.
Any coming-of-age ceremony should have an element of the ordeal about it, I suppose. And it was lovely to see them struggle with it. I think particularly Paris, to see her, one of her dreams is to be a singer, and she suddenly stands here and says, oh, it's a lot harder than I thought. And it's very touching. Their fear is palpable, their anxiety. And also, they're still innocent as well. And it's great. That's what it's all about. It's a lot better than getting all your hair pulled out.
It's nearly the day of the addict's coming-of-age ceremony, and my finished amulets have arrived.
This is mild steel, and they'll feel the weight of it in their pocket. They'll be carrying around this burden of this event past that they went through in their handbag or in their pocket. I mean, in doing the ceremony, I want to, you know, this is the medal that they have earned for going through their, you know, psychoeducation and the sessions, becoming sober. It's important to mark it. That's what ritual is about in the end.
The addicts in recovery have decided to hold their ceremony in a non-denominational church near Halifax. They've filled it with family and friends, including Fiona's parents and her 16-year-old daughter Naomi and 19-year-old son Jacob. I'll present each addict with an amulet, and in turn they'll talk for the first time in public about their pasts and their hopes for their new life.
Alan, could you come and stand here, please?
I always thought that nobody wanted me. I always thought that what I'd done, everybody just... I hated myself, so everybody else hated me. Everybody else thought I was a failure. So I decided I was going to kill myself. But something stopped me from doing it. I don't know what it was. And that was probably the start of my real journey.
It's been a long process to get me here, and I can't change what's gone on in the past. I only can change the future. And for the love of my family, my close friends helped me to get to this stage.
Six months today, I was taken into hospital and I was given a few hours to live. My family were called in. I now am facing up to the devastation I have put around my family and my friends. And today, I just want to say to them, a huge thank you. And lastly, I want to thank Jacob and Naomi for giving me another chance to be a mum.
I'm an artist, I make things, and here we are at a ceremony, and I thought, I've got to make something for this ceremony. So I've made you all a gift, and I hope, Alan, that, you know, this sits in your pocket and reminds you of what you've been through. And you come, you know, we're here, it's a lifelong thing, but this is a moment to celebrate it. So I'm going to hang this round your neck. And well done. Well done. Well done, mate. Well done. Well done. Yeah. Thank you very much. Very nice. Cheers, Grayson. Well done. Well done, mate. Brilliant. Well done. That's what a ritual should do, you know. People were getting the feels big time. I was as moved as everyone else. And, you know, recovery from addiction is an ongoing process, but this is a moment to mark it, that they will remember, and I hope they'll be able to carry the memory in their heart along with the amulet in their handbag.
In Lewisham, for their ceremony, the girls have laid on a red carpet premiere. And the coming-of-age video they've made will be witnessed not just by staff, family and loved ones, but potentially anyone in the world online.
So today is the ceremony. I think, I've been very proud of what they've done, and I hope you like it. But we're coming to that moment when you're going to see the video, and then, when we've seen it, we're going to put it online.
No.
So, shall I push the button? No. Yeah? Here we go.
When I think of tomorrow, I don't want the same tragedies. I don't want your life to follow into the same traps as me.
They're young people. If you're about to get angry, don't make things escalate. If people are trying to get a rise out of you, don't give them one. If you're going through something hard, it's okay to talk to someone.
Things were said on social media that other people saw, which meant other people got involved. People who didn't even go to my school, knew who I was. It was like my name had been heard, everywhere.
In my life at the moment, you could say the past is very prominent for me, and I'm kind of trying to get over it. I am letting things go. That's how I see coming of age.
I see my past as a child, wishing I could go back in time, live
When I step on that pitch, all the negativity and bad vibes disappear. Before I used to just get angry and want to fight. But since football came into my life, it's a way for me to get away.
I hope to not let things around social media affect me how it did in the past, and just do me.
I would say goodbye to doubting myself. Yeah. I'm way more capable than I actually think I am. I'm really cool. I am a cool person, okay? I am a very cool person. That's what I have to say. And I am happy with who I am and who I'm going to be.
Well, what did you think of that?
That video just sums up all what our girls have been through and the journey and the obstacles that they've overcome to get to where they are today. And it's made me feel really, really proud. And I'm sorry, girls, but I'm a bit emotional, so I'm so proud. It took a lot for you to get up there and do that. That's why we do what we do, for that.
There you go. And now we come to that moment when we are going to put it online. Casey, I want you to push the button, okay? So push the tweet button. Here it goes. It's gone.
Oh, no.
It's gone. Brave girl. I mean, I was quite trepidatious about what the girls would think, as we showed them the video. But I thought it was lovely to see Philippa, her reaction to it, really, because it kind of confirmed what I hoped we were doing, which was sort of marking the journey, marking the transformation. These young women, they were having a difficult time. They still are having a difficult time, but, they're on the right track. And this is about saying, we believe in you, and giving them a bit of confidence, doing something difficult. These are what coming-of-age ceremonies are about. And I think, in our own small way, here in South London, we've done it. We're a very individualistic culture. And that might, in some ways, be one of our weaknesses. The most important aspect of coming of age is say, I am joining society. I am becoming an adult. I'm going to have to get used to the give and take of healthy relationships. I'm going to be a responsible person, earn the respect and the rewards of adulthood.
you.